Well, thanks, Michael, for this wonderful introduction. Two big words, I will say, for me, but I really appreciate. Um, well, just let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Fran Méndez. I am the director of the AsyncAPI initiative, and I also created the spec and this whole thing about AsyncAPI. I started it, but I didn't create everything, right? We're more than just one person. And more recently, I joined Postman as a director of engineering, and also uh, to help move Postman forward in terms of supporting event-driven architectures and so on. So stay tuned, because there will be some good news. Let me just start this talk with a little bit of story. This is Stockholm. This is one of my favorite cities in the world, by the way. I love it. It was October 2018, and I was there to speak at the Nordic APIs conference. To be honest, I was freaking nervous. It was my first keynote in an international conference, let's say, about APIs, and the reason I was also nervous was the reason I was about to announce, right? Uh, I got the first set of sponsors that were going to support AsyncAPI, and I was leaving my job at New Relic to commit myself 100% to making AsyncAPI grow. So yeah, the thing here is that I finished my talk, and the time for questions started. I was so relieved, like I did it. It was done. It was time for questions. I love questions because I love interacting with people, which is such a pity in these online conferences that I cannot really interact real time with you, but we'll get there again. So one guy raises his hand and asks, what about Avro schemas? Apache Avro. Is AsyncAPI a replacement for Avro? And I said, no, I mean, they're actually solving different problems. So more questions came in, and after the talk, two guys came to talk to me separately, one after the other, right? And they did exactly the same question. And it's like, have you thought of merging with the OpenAPI specification? And well, my my answer at that time was like, okay, we've been discussing it, because it's true, we've been discussing it. But the answer was always, look, it's gonna put a lot of pressure on tooling vendors right now, right? If they have to support OpenAPI plus AsyncAPI. So the final answer was like, let's not merge both specs, even though they're very similar, and we want to collaborate, and we collaborate. We don't want to merge the specs, right? This is the entrance of the API Days Paris. It was December, 2 months after the other conference in Stockholm. And this was my first API Days in Paris. I was overwhelmed because, I mean, the amount of people there was insane. And I was pretty new there, like my first time in Paris. But luckily, Kinlane was there and to lend me a hand. And I always will be grateful for that, right? Also, my friend Anjay Jarsina was there too. Anjay used to work for Adidas, and he introduced me to Samir Amsani to me, and when we got a great chat about API management tools and how they were thinking AsyncAPI could benefit Adidas APIs. The only problem was they already have API management tools, right? They were using, can't remember exactly what tool was it, but they were using already a tool for API management. And they were using already OpenAPI. They actually have pretty good guidelines, API guidelines. I recommend you have a look. And the problem here is that they would love to have everything in a single place. So you don't have some guidelines and some developer portals and API management tools for OpenAPI, and then the same thing for AsyncAPI, which didn't exist yet. I mean the tools, right? And share, you'll have some JSON schema documents, like the models, the data models, right? So it will become a mess, and they wanted to have everything in a single place. But the tool that they were using wasn't supporting AsyncAPI, so what can we do, right? And almost a year after, I was helping organizing API Days Barcelona. I was living at Barcelona at the time, and actually they helped AsyncAPI even more by giving me the opportunity to have a booth there at the conference, right? So Baptiste, Mehdi, Uri, Denis, and team, thanks for that, folks, because I really appreciate that. And I also get invited to the speakers dinner, which is usually done the evening before the conference. This is Spain, right? So I was in the street with my beer, having a bunch of great conversations with many API folks. And guess what? This evening, I got the same question 3 times. It was, hey, have you thought of merging AsyncAPI spec with OpenAPI spec? And I was like, oh, gosh, I can't believe, again, the same question. And this time 3 times over beers. So you know the answer already. So I was like, what the hell is happening here, right? So why am I telling you all these stories? Because this is cheaper than a therapist? Maybe, I don't know. I'm kidding now seriously. So the thing here is that I was asking myself, I was wondering why people want us to merge into a single spec. Like, why merging OpenAPI and AsyncAPI? And when I was giving this response, this hard answer, like, no, this is not going to happen because we already discussed it, and blah, 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 whatever, the face of the people were always like, yeah, not my problem, right? So it's still not a great response for them, right? So the thing is that so coming back to the questions, like why people want us to merge with OpenAPI, I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to answer this question now. I just want you to look at this. So just have a look briefly. We got REST APIs, we got GraphQL APIs, gRPC APIs, messaging APIs, or asynchronous APIs, as you prefer, SOAP APIs. So there, and SOAP APIs still exist. I can guarantee. So so yeah, and for all of those type of APIs, there are like a list of different API specifications that you can use. This one here is a simplified list of API specifications. There are many more, but I will say that these are the most used for each of the types. So let's go through them. Like if you got a REST API, you have OpenAPI and you have RAML, and because you have OpenAPI, you also have even though you maybe don't know it, but you're using JSON schema behind the scenes. So there are 3 API specifications involved here, working completely separated. If you have GraphQL, then yeah, it's simpler because you have the spec. The spec and the tooling is created by GraphQL, so that's fine. If you have gRPC, you have the gRPC spec, and you have protobuf, and also some tooling that they provide, that Google provides for that. Also want to make a point here that it's not that you have REST or GraphQL or gRPC. You have REST and probably and GraphQL and messaging and SOAP probably, and in bigger companies you probably have all of them, right? So yeah, it's not a matter of or, right? Yeah. So then if you get messaging, you have AsyncAPI, but because of the way AsyncAPI works, by default, you get JSON schema behind the scenes. That's the way you define your documents, your data models. And we knew it from the very beginning. Actually, I think the first issue that I created on AsyncAPI repo was just a link to Avro and say, like, for inspiration, have a look at Avro, like just have a look at it just for inspirational purposes, let's say. And we knew that that Avro was pretty heavily used on the messaging world, specifically on Apache products, right? And so telling people that they have to translate all their Avro to JSON schema, like we did in the beginning, it was a pain. Like, we were transferring the load, the complexity from ourselves to the user. It's like, now it's your responsibility to adapt to my tool. So in the end, what we did is like, okay, we need to get over this, and we added support for Avro. So now you can use Avro, JSON schema, whatever you prefer, and even RAML data types. That's why RAML is in yellow there. It's like, it's not that you can embed a whole RAML document, it's that you can embed your RAML data types inside AsyncAPI. So when you're using AsyncAPI, you're actually using many more API specifications, not just AsyncAPI, right? And if you're using SOAP, you have WSDL. I don't know how you pronounce that. I pronounce it WSDL, and I hope this is correct. And XSD, which is like, XSD is similar to what JSON schema does with JSON, but in this case with XML, right? And now, so now imagine having this this whole set of specifications, right? And that you have to maintain them all, right? All the documents, right? So I'm gonna ask this question again. Okay, so why people want us to merge with OpenAPI? Then I was asking myself again. If we merge the two specs, OpenAPI and AsyncAPI, we still have JSON schema, Avro, and RAML not being part of the spec. So what about people using RAML? We leave these people out, like, oh no, you're not using OpenAPI, so yeah, you know what? You cannot get any benefit. And what about those using GraphQL and gRPC? Like, imagine that you only have GraphQL and Kafka in your company, wherever, or AMQP, whatever, and messaging APIs, right, or synchronous APIs. If you have GraphQL and Kafka, for instance, then what? How do you share the data models? Data models in GraphQL are not compatible with Avro or JSON schema, so you have to define things twice. I don't think this is what you want to do, right? And the same thing applies for gRPC. So what people will do, and they will ask next, is that you add support for, or you combine with GraphQL, or you combine, like, OpenAPI and AsyncAPI combines with GraphQL into a single spec or into a single document somehow, and then gRPC as well, and so on and so on. So, but you know what? The thing here, the thing about that here is that it's already happening. So the very moment we added support for RAML and data types and for Avro, what happened next is that, hey, we want to use protobuf inside AsyncAPI. Hey, we want to use gRPC. We want to use GraphQL schemas inside AsyncAPI, right? Now that we can use OpenAPI as well inside AsyncAPI, so some parts of it, we also want to take advantage of this. And so when I started facing this, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Like, people really want a single spec? I don't think so. People really want a single file, maybe. I don't think it's just a single file, because specs are often composed of multiple files already like this, like that. You probably have your OpenAPI files, your AsyncAPI files, and your JSON schema definition somewhere else in a GitHub repo or somewhere else, right? So, so after asking the community a lot, we learned that what people are asking for is actually a single tool or a single process or a single workflow, right? Like people want their processes to become easier, more seamless, right? And you know what? And you know why? Because people have other problems too. When you're developing an application or creating a product, you have to make other choices or take care of other parts. Like think security, deployment, storage, the testing strategies that you're gonna use. So API definition is just one of them, just another one, not a special one or anything. For them, it's not. For us, which who we love APIs, it's a special one. But for developers, this is just another tool, right? And we, the specification authors, we're not making it easy. We're not putting it easy for the user, and that's that's a pity, actually. So how do we solve this challenge without merging into a single spec, without all of the specs merging into the one and only spec, right? That everybody has been looking for years. Let me go through this list here. I listed a bunch of things that, in my opinion, are working. You see it in green. Others that aren't in red, and others that are kinda working or can be close to going well or close to going bad. So yeah. So specs, for instance, let me go just one by one. Like specs, in the case of the specs, we have multiple schema definition languages. We have JSON schema, Avro, RAML data types, many others. We have multiple paradigms. We have request response, event-driven architectures, RPC, different paradigms. We have multiple protocols. In the case of AsyncAPI, you have all the protocols basically. So whatever protocols you want to use, it's possible. And that's, it's more or less like covered, right? Like if we have specs for each of these areas, and that's fine, right? If they're working well together, that's another thing, but at least we have that. Then we have extensibility, right? So extensibility, I think specs, most of the specs are extensible in some way or another, like for instance OpenAPI and therefore AsyncAPI, they're extensible, so you can use these specification extensions, which is X, dash, whatever you want to put, and the parsers will ignore it. It will validate. So that's a way to extend specifications, but some others, like I think GraphQL doesn't allow any kind of specific syntax to extend it. So yeah, there's some work there, but there's some work needed to be done there. And then there's the problem of composability. If you think about think about component architectures in development, right? Like you can use one component inside another, and you can actually build things out of many small components, right? So we're failing here. But miserably, we're failing here. Like OpenAPI and AsyncAPI can more or less work together because they're very similar. So actually, I started AsyncAPI from OpenAPI, so that's why they're very similar. And but they're completely and radically different to GraphQL and protobuf or gRPC. So how do you embed a YAML definition or a JSON definition inside protobuf or GraphQL? You can't, right? You can't do it because it's not going to parse. So we're failing there, right? We know the reasons. I'm not blaming anyone here. I'm just saying that the reasons is that everyone has their own reasons to choose one format over the other. That's fine. But again, for the purpose of this talk, of like looking into the future, I think they are not composable. It's not that I think they're not composable. So that would be great. In terms of tools, we are failing in a lot of areas. Like we're not collaboratively building parsers or validators. We're not building tools to facilitate evolution. We're not making each other tools interoperable between them. So I put an example here. So when we had to add support for Avro into AsyncAPI, we didn't have a tool that will do that for us. Like that will allow us to parse Avro documents and easily have that almost done, right? Like we have to do almost anything. And we didn't have that for OpenAPI because OpenAPI is not maintaining official tooling. So yeah, you get a lot of parsers, but who knows if they're working well or not, right? And then you have for RAML data types, we had something because the mules of folks were maintaining something so that was great. So the thing is that when we wanted to integrate AsyncAPI with another spec, it wasn't easy, right? We had to build the tools ourselves and maintain the tools ourselves, and that's a pain, right? That's fine, but it will be great that Avro will maintain their own tool for parsing, OpenAPI their own tool for parsing as well, and each of them, right? And also, of course, they have to be open source. And to be honest, what we found so far is that most of the times they're open source, so that's fine. That's fine. And for the end user, I will say I'm gonna just highlight the last one is for the end user authoring tools. I think Postman, Stoplight, and other products are doing well here, at least in the REST APIs world. For now, they're doing a great job here, and that you can actually prototype or author your API, even if you don't have any single idea of how OpenAPI works or GraphQL works, right? That you don't have to know the syntax. But in the end, I think it all goes down to surprise people, right? Like it goes in line with what Steve Wozniak was saying precisely today, and it's always trying to put the people into the first place, right? Into the goal, and the thing is that I think we have to learn as organization leaders. We have to learn how to collaborate, and we have to start making combined marketing efforts and financial support between specs. I'm raising a hand here, like please support JSON Schema. They have an open collective and they doing a great job, and almost nobody supporting them. So they need it. And I think the user experience must be the end goal, and transparency here must prevail, right? Like everything needs to be done transparently in all the organizations that working on API specs, right? So wrapping up, we'd like to mention and make a strong point here that hey, everyone realize that the API ecosystem is diverse, that the specs must be composable and extensible, that we should facilitate evolution and interoperability, and that spec authors must collaborate more and put the user in first place, right? Not our own problems. So just to finish, I think this is the real future of API specifications. Like what I've been describing is the future of API specifications. If we manage to solve all these problems, I'm confident that that this is how it's gonna look like in the next years, and I'm confident that we're gonna solve it. Like from here, raise a hand. Like we are also culprits of this, so we need to collaborate more. And from the AsyncAPI initiative, we're gonna make everything that's possible for us to make the process of using multiple specs really seamless. But there's one more thing. Like I think community is super important here. Without you, the community will not be able to accomplish. Without you, the community, right, will not be able to accomplish any goals. And I ask you to get involved as much as you can from here right now, even if it's just to give feedback, to complain respectfully, or just to say how much you love our work. Just chime in and say something like, we learn from your comments, from your feedback, right? So I think I have some time for questions. Just okay, so we don't have questions. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy Postman Galaxy. Bye.